Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar, Mass Spectrometry of Highly Modified Synthetic RNA and Bachem's novel approach in this area. I'm your moderator, Seamus White. I'm a Business Development Manager at Bachem in Switzerland. And today's expert speaker is Dr. Giovanni Calderisi, and he's one of our scientific experts, also in Bachem in Switzerland. Today's session will actually be recorded and will be available for your convenience after it goes out live. But please make a note that during the session, the Q&A is available at any time. So please pose any questions that you have during the presentation, and we will have some time to answer these at the end of the presentation. A little bit about Bachem. So we are one of the world's leading CDMOs. We specialize in complex APIs, namely peptides and oligonucleotides. We value our long-term partnerships from small to very large companies in the life science industries. And we're very proud of our contribution to important medicines that improve the lives of patients around the globe. This is our new facility, which is currently under construction for tides. The groundbreaking took place in July 2021. And as you can see, it's going to be the world's tides center of excellence. So everyone on the site is really excited about this new building. It has the capability for both peptides and oligonucleotides. There will be a strong focus on automation, and it will be equipped for commercial API manufacturing. We are building on decades of know-how in analytics at Bachem. We have over 50 years experience in peptides, and now we have moved into oligonucleotides. We essentially have built on the mass spectrometry center of excellence that we have. And as you will see in Giovanni's presentation, that we have a high degree of specialism in the high and ultra high resolution of mass spec. A little bit about how this fits in. This is actually part of our innovation and technology segment, and you will see our 5 strategic foundations on screen. So just to give you a general overview of where this fits within the Bachem strategy. So people and culture, innovation and technology, sustainability, which we know is a very hot topic at the moment, customer centricity and service, and operational excellence and quality. And with that, I will hand over to our expert, Dr. Giovanni.
Thank you a lot, Seamus. I will divide my talk into 3 parts. The first part will be about LC-MS of oligonucleotides and how we support our process development. In the second part, I will show you our direct infusion ESI-MS and MS-MS technique, an easy way to characterize oligonucleotides. And in the third part, we will have some fun with a monster molecule, a 36 nucleotide sense strand RNA. On this slide, you can see a generic structure of an oligonucleotide. Oligonucleotides are made out of nucleotides, of course, which are then made out of the sugar moiety, the nucleobase, and the phosphate backbone. And all of these moieties in APIs and also in nature are often heavily modified. The nucleobase can be modified, the sugar can be modified, and even the phosphate backbone can carry modifications. There is no more powerful way to characterize oligonucleotides, including all these modifications, than ultra-high resolution mass spectrometry, and this is what the focus of my talk will be. We gained a lot of experience in ultra-high resolution mass spectrometry of peptides, which we could directly transfer into the world of oligonucleotides. When we first did LC-MS experiments of oligonucleotides, we encountered a lot of challenges and problems. Current LC methods for chromatographic separation of oligonucleotides produce very bad signal intensity in the mass spectrometer. As I said, the signal intensity is very low, while the background signals tend to be very, very high. Here, for example, in this LC run. Thankfully, we have a powerful background subtraction algorithm, which transforms a awful looking spectra in a very beautiful looking spectrum, both of the main product and also of the impurities. And thanks to the high resolution and the SNAP algorithm by Bruca, we're able to determine the charge of the species and also the monoisotopic peak. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. If I send a spectrum of an impurity or more impurities on one fraction like this here to our producers, they will send it back to me and tell me that I'm crazy. This is way too complicated to evaluate. I had to come up with something which was maximum entropy deconvolution, and this the convolution algorithm transforms a complicated looking spectrum like this on the left side into a very nice and easy interpretable spectrum like this one here on the right side. And now everything you have to do is you have to calculate the mass difference between the main product and your impurities. And you can also determine how much of each impurity is in each fraction. This is very helpful. This approach is also very precise. We were able to identify impurities with a mass difference of less than 1 unit. Here, for example, the MU-MC exchange. Me as a MS expert at Bachem, I do not only have to support our process development on our synthetic side, I also have to support our LC method developer. And they usually have one central question. How good is my method? How well are the impurities separated from the main peak? Or what is about impurities that are still co-eluting with the main peak? For that, we developed a peak purity approach that we applied in the world of peptides and that we could transfer into the world of oligonucleotides. I will show it to you now. In this slide, you see a 2D map of an LC run. Here the red and blue dots, those are isotopic distributions. The big red isotopic distribution here in the middle is the main product. And here marked in gray, those are some maybe co-eluting impurities. So first thing, we have to identify them. Very easy by using the SNAP algorithm and the high resolution of the mass spectrometer. I identified the minus 15.98 unit, which is the PSPO substitution. This is the substitution of a sulfur atom in a thiolated phosphate backbone. And this is a very nasty purity, very hard to control in synthesis and also very hard to separate chromatography. I also identified the plus 21.984 units, which is sodium adduct. And as you can probably guess, this is an MS artifact, but we have to be sure about that. The thing that we do in the peak purity approach, we generate extracted ion chromatograms of this species, and then we compare it to the main product. If it looks completely the same, you can definitely say that it is a MS artifact. If it looks completely different, then it is an impurity. In this case, the PSPO substitution was successfully separated chromatographically from the main product. So good job. So let's focus another bit on the PSPO substitution. A synthetic chemist from our production site approached me once, and he had a problem. He had a huge impurity before the main peak. He knew it was the PSPO substitution, but he had to find out more about it. He wanted to know which part of the oligonucleotide is mainly subjected to the side reaction. So I performed a LC-MS impurity analysis of it. I identified the fragments with PSPO substitution and those without PSPO substitution. and I calculated the percentage of the PSPO conversion depending on the phosphate side of the molecule. And as you can see here, the 3' side of the molecule was mainly subjected to PSPO substitution, while the 5' side did not have any PSPO substitution at all. I applied this approach to another impurity, the methylation, and here the story was completely different. The 5' side carried the methylation, while the 3' side was completely unaffected by it. Ultra-high resolution in LC-MS is key for exact characterization of oligonucleotide impurities. The big purity analysis helps our LC method developer in evaluating their methods, and the LC-MS is very useful for characterization of undesired side reactions. Indeed, LC-MS can be useful, but if you want to confirm the sequence of your product by MS-MS, LC poses two main challenges and downsides. First of all, as I mentioned before, signal intensity is very, very low. And you need good signal intensity of your precursor to have full sequence coverage. And second, the accumulation time of your main product is limited. This is just as long as your fraction is. So I decided to completely eliminate the liquid chromatography from the experimental setup, introducing the direct infusion AC-MS technique, which made oligonucleotide characterization very easy. So what was the goal? I wanted to take a siRNA duplex, which consisted of a 36 nucleotide sense strand and a 22 nucleotides antisense strand, and solve it in a suitable MS solvent, and then directly spray it into the mass spectrometer without using the liquid chromatography. If you do that without sample preparation, you will not see the signal of your oligonucleotide. You will just see adducts of sodium. So we had to come up with something here. We developed a very efficient, robust, and fast offline desalting technique, which allowed us to generate a lot of sample that we could directly infuse into a mass spectrometer. The signal intensity was very high and the sodium adduct formation really, really low. We applied the technique on the bigger sense strand, and also here the results were really good. The signal intensity was really high and the sodium adduct formation very low. I wanted to apply this technique on the final API to identify both strands in the duplex for release, for example, and we were very successful. As you can see here, the green dots are the signals with the green dots are the antisense strand, and the blue ones is the sense strand. So you can identify both strands in a single AC-MS experiment. The direct infusion AC-MS is easy and fast. It is robust and generically usable. And now MS-MS method development becomes easy. You have syringes full of sample solution that you can directly inject in your mass spectrometer, and you have hours to adjust your MS parameters to get the best result possible. But before we do that, let me introduce you to collision-induced dissociation of oligonucleotides, called CID. If you do CID of oligonucleotides, you will break the covalent bond in the phosphate backbone of the oligonucleotide. And depending on which bond you break, you will generate different types of fragments. From the 5' side, A- base ions, B, C, and D ions, and from the 3' side, Z, Y, X, and W. Which fragments you will encounter depends on mainly 3 factors. The first one is the precursor charge state. Every charge state behaves a little bit differently. Second, the collision energy. You have to be careful about secondary fragmentation. And the third part is the chemistry of the nucleotide building block, which is the most important factor. So let me explain this a little deeper. So if you have an RNA, for example, and you have an OH group on the 2' side, you will expect C and Y ions and W and A ions, which are accompanied by base loss. DNA, on the other hand, will only generate A- base ions and W ions, which is not good for your sequence coverage because you lose the base, which contains the sequence information. 2' modified RNA, which we work here at Bachem, which are modified on the 2' with a methyl group, fluorine group, or even a methoxyethyl group, produce every kind of fragment: D, C, V, and A, Z, Y, X, and W ions. This is good for your sequence coverage on one hand. On the other hand, MS spectra of this type of RNA tends to become very complicated. So we are ready. We isolate the precursor ions. We apply some energy on it, and we destroy the oligonucleotides. And now comes the fun part. We have to identify the fragments. Here, for example, all types of different fragments with different charge states. This all sounds really complicated, but at the end, you don't have to identify every possible fragment that you're expecting. You just need to identify the fragments that confirm the sequence. And it doesn't matter from which side you identify the fragments, the 3' side of the 5 or the 5' side, or which type of fragment you choose. The important thing is that you have at least one fragment per cleavage site that includes your sequence information. In this case, with the antisense strand, we were successful. We had full sequence coverage, at least one fragment per cleavage site. The dissolving and direct infusion MS is easy and fast for identification of oligonucleotides. Now efficient MS development becomes possible, and this results in very robust methods for sequence confirmation. And in this case, we were able to obtain full sequence coverage of the antisense strand, and this can easily be achieved by ESI-MS and CID. But unfortunately, the antisense strand was just the easy part. We still have to deal with the 36 nucleotide sense strand RNA. And this is what the third part of my talk will be about. We will have some fun with a monster molecule, the 36 nucleotide sense strand. So why is this molecule so intimidating? First of all, it is the sheer size. It is typically bigger than 12 kilodaltons, around 30,000 daltons, something like that. And this results in a very huge charge state envelope. So you have to choose wisely which charge state you pick for CID. Every charge state will behave a little bit differently and give more or less better or worse results. Second, this type of sense strand RNA often carry apolar and even labile modifications. For example, a long apolar chain on one end of the oligonucleotide will generate a fragment with very low signal intensity. You don't have any parts of the molecule that can carry the charge, and it's very heavy. That's not good for your ion transmission. GalNAc modifications, which can often be found on these types of sense strand RNAs, they just tend to fall off during CID. So you lose the structural information, and I wish you good luck in interpreting this MS data. This will be very intriguing. Third, internal fragments, or no fragmentation at all. A difference of 4 volt in collision voltage will make the difference between no fragmentation and too much fragmentation, which results in internal fragments, and so you will lose sequence information, basically. So how do we tame this monster molecule? First of all, we evaluate the charge states. Which one is the best? And once we have it, we optimize the collision energy on it to obtain the best possible results. In this case, the -13 charge state was the best one. -15 and -16 completely failed. I took the -13 charge state and I optimized the collision energy. I increased the collision energy step by step, identified the fragments in all spectra, and I came up with the best value for CID, the perfect setting, which gave us full sequence coverage of the sense strand RNA. So this experiment and this approach was very successful in confirming the sequence of this monster molecule. MS-MS of sense strands RNA of this size can be very challenging due to the size and the gas phase fragmentation. Charge state evaluation is essential to understand the gas phase chemistry of the sense strand RNA. And third, the collision energy optimization guarantees robust CID parameters and full sequence coverage. So before I finish my talk, I have one more thing for you, or rather, 2 things. The sense and the antisense strand in the final API. We were able to generate AC spectra with very high signal intensity and very clean signals. So why stop there? We can do MS-MS of both strands in a single experiment. We take the duplex, we solve it, directly infuse it into our mass spectrometer, isolate sense and antisense strand, apply energy on it. We identify the fragments, the sequence confirming fragments of both strands, and obtain full sequence coverage in a single test. We can do it. Direct infusion makes MS-MS characterization of oligonucleotides easy on single strand level and beyond. I would like to conclude my talk with the take-home messages. Ultra-high resolution mass spectrometry here at Bachem is key for exact characterization of oligonucleotide impurities by LC-MS. Dissolving and direct infusion MS is an easy and fast technique for identification of oligonucleotides. And full sequence coverage by MS-MS of up to 36 nucleotide RNA is possible, even on a duplex level.
Thank you, Giovanni. And now I would just like to, before we go on to the poll question, I would like to remind everyone that the Q&A session is live and open. So please ask any questions that you may have had on Giovanni's presentation so far. So on to the poll question. Do you think that structural elucidation of related impurities of oligonucleotides by LC-MS will be demanded by the authorities? So it's a single choice answer. And answer A is no, the exact masses will be enough. Answer B is not yet, but in the future. C is it is already demanded, but we struggle to deliver data. And the final answer is it is already demanded, and it is part of our routine analysis portfolio. So I just, everyone that's on the call, I see there's over 35 participants today. So I'll just give you some more time. If you can just scroll down to the poll question and select your responses, please. And let's see how we're doing as an audience today. We've got some more time, so yeah, if no one's done it before, you'll find it on the bottom of your screen. If you roll over the third little icon along the poll question, you should be able to select an answer. Okay, so we've got the results. So yeah, most of the audience, 50% have gone for not yet, but in the future. And then that's closely followed by it is already demanded, and the two different versions of that, about 28% and 22%. Okay, and yeah, just a reminder to everyone, the Q&A session is open. Don't see any questions coming in just yet, but I imagine people are maybe posing some questions. So I'll give you a few more minutes. So I'd say we have a question now. So the first question that we have today is, what instrument did you use for MS-MS of the oligonucleotides? Do you recommend using other fragmentation techniques besides CID?
So thank you for the question. We use a QSOF instrument here with 70,000 in mass resolution. And it is equipped with a CID cell. And all the MS-MS experiments that we use for release is mainly done by CID. There are a few other techniques that may be helpful. For example, UVPD could be interesting. Maybe some electron techniques with high energy. But I think the main technique in the future of well, sequence confirmation of oligonucleotides will still be CID. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Giovanni. We have another one on the list as well. Do you use MS-MS for GMP release?
Sorry, again.
Do you use MS-MS for GMP release? So
yes,
yeah.
Yes, we do. We do. Under GMP conditions, everything is done under GMP conditions, and you are basically able to confirm the sequence of your molecule.
Yeah,
with this technique.
And it has been used in production.
Yes, of course. Of course,
Yeah.
with every product that we released, we had to do a MS-MS experiment.
Yeah.
Also on duplex level, not only single strand level.
Okay, thank you. Just give everyone else a little bit more time to pose a question. Still got most of the audience online, so if you can think of any questions, please ask Giovanni. Now you have the chance to ask the expert. There's another question. What about oligos longer than 36? Any opinion on what lengths are possible or out of reach?
Good question. So longer than 36, I think it will be possible. Full sequence confirmation will become even more challenging, depending of the chemical nature of the oligonucleotides. I have seen some good experiments from academia dealing with a 100 nucleotide long RNA. Above that, only with a top-down approach as we do it here at Bachem, this will be very challenging, if not impossible, in my opinion. Yeah, but I think more than 36 is possible, and up to 50, 60 should be doable in a single experiment with CID, in my opinion. But this will become very challenging.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Giovanni. Just give the audience a few more minutes to see if there's any more questions. Okay, the questions are starting to come in, so that's good. We've got one. So how much time do you spend on method development? I guess that's a very, it can vary according to molecules, of course, but can you give the audience a general view on that, Giovanni?
Yes. The thing about that is that by using direct infusion mass spectrometry, and this saves a lot of time. Yeah, because I can adjust the parameters in no time. So measuring is not the problem. That evaluation, depending on the size of the molecule, can vary, but if you are well trained, yes, evaluation of spectra with the help of big assigning algorithms can take you maybe up to 30 minutes to an hour per spectrum, but then you become better and better. And I think for a duplex, a method development will take you, if everything goes right, a week of time. Then you have the method ready, more or less.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know. Another question, can you use restriction enzymes to simplify the structure before sequencing?
You could do that, but you simplify the structure, but the experiment becomes much more complicated. Yes. And sample elaboration becomes longer, gets longer, and it's not as easy to implement it in our routine service as a simple MS-MS top-down experiment would take. Yeah. At the end, maybe you have a simpler structure, but for now, with the oligonucleotides of our size, we don't have to do it, and I do not want to do it.
Okay. We've got one more. What method of MS will be applicable for the analysis of conjugated ASOs with proteins?
Very interesting question. I've never done that before, but it sounds very interesting because you measure proteins in positive mode and oligonucleotides negative mode. So even the first step in choosing the IR mode is can be intriguing.
It sounds like you're open to the challenge, so please, if anyone has
I would love to
some molecules.
I cannot answer the question.
Yeah,
because
okay. It's very.
But the challenging would be is intriguing. Yes, I would love to try it out.
Okay. Okay, I think we've dried up now. All the questions seem to have been asked, unless just give it a couple of more minutes to see if anyone on the line has some more questions. I see there's still quite a few people online, so yeah, hopefully you're all typing a very long, complicated question for Giovanni. That might be all that we're going to get. I don't know. Let's see. Oh, no, here's one coming. Yeah. How efficient, scalable is the MS method for analysis of ASOs in the plasma tissue in the clinical stage?
I don't really get the
I guess that's
question.
But I guess that's in vitro testing of the plasma tissue in the clinic, so it's not something that.
I mean, we produce APIs, so for most of the time we don't have to deal with with complex complex matrices. But I think direct infusion will get even more challenging. You might introduce some sample preparation step before it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay, there's no more questions that I can see, but we still have quite a few people online. So yeah, that very long, complicated question is coming. Giovanni, I hope you're ready for it. Just leave it a couple of more minutes. Maybe not. Maybe people have, okay. I think, yeah, it doesn't look like there's going to be, oh. No, that's it, okay. Okay, thank you all for your attendance today. And as I was mentioned at the beginning, this recording is will be available soon on our web pages and on our social media channels. So if any of your colleagues have missed the recording today, please let them know that it will be available very soon. And on the screen, you can see some of the contact information for the various Bachem sites. So for any oligo sales, please contact us, also for peptide inquiries as well. And you can find all of these details again on the bachem.com website. So with that, I would like to close today's session. So thank you very much, Giovanni. And I hope everyone online has a pleasant rest of today, evening, morning, wherever you are around the world, or if you're listening to this on the recording afterwards. Thank you all for your attention.